This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, a Scoundrels Special Edition.
Greetings, Scoundrels. This is Dennis, and of course, I have the Dark Lord of the Shtick, Darth Taxus, with me. Welcome back to this Scoundrel Special Edition. Tonight, we are covering some recent Star Wars comics. More specifically, we'll be discussing the first issue of Darth Maul and the first 3 issues of Dr. Aphra. But first, Taxus, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really good. Still kind of suffering from the blazing hot wings that I ate on a dare yesterday, and of course, I had the leftovers today and just now touched my finger to my eyes, and it feels very, very great. It's wonderful.
Sith thrive on pain, so I'm sure you're doing wonderful. All right. Well, before we get into the comics, we have a little something different planned to start the show. Taxus was recently the guest host on the Geek Directive, which is on the Assembly of Geeks Network, and I was a guest on that episode for a Star Wars trivia segment. And
I don't remember a single thing about it. It's going to be a surprise to me, too.
All right. Well, I happen to have some leftover trivia questions. So, Taxus, I'm going to give those to you.
All right.
Now, some of these aren't going to be particularly difficult. I was trying to come up with questions of varying degrees of difficulty for the show because I didn't know what we were looking at. And I used my roughest ones then. But anyway, so anyone listening to this can play along as well. Question number 1. Where did Qui-Gon tell the battle droid he was taking the Queen?
To Coruscant.
Correct. What type of ship did Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and the Queen escape from Naboo in?
Nubian.
Can you be more specific?
Slay right here. I'm out.
All right, that was a J-Type 327 Nubian.
Ah, the J-Type.
Yeah. Watto gives you part of that answer on
the Nubian
Tatooine.
Queen.
Right. Well, okay, next question. Under what name was the clone army ordered for the Jedis and the Republic?
It's God, I'm totally drawn. I know it's. Holy crud, I've forgotten the name. I'm so old now.
Going once.
It's Gal, I keep thinking Sidious, but it's not. It's something else. Go ahead.
Sifo Dyas.
Sifo Dyas, that's right. Oh, forgot all about that. Okay.
All right, next question. What were the name of the droids that began destroying Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter in Revenge of the Sith?
Buzz droids. That's
right, and those are officially called Pisteka Sabotage droids.
Well, I won't make that mistake again.
All right, how many Sith Lords are mentioned by their Sith name in the prequels?
4.
Final answer?
Oh, wait. 5.
Okay, and can you name them?
Yeah, it's Sidious, of course,
Yep.
and Vader. Then
Yep.
you've got Plagueis,
Uh-huh.
Maul, and Tyrannus.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Next question. Moving to the original trilogy. Who called the Millennium Falcon a piece of junk?
Luke.
That is Luke, correct. And from The Empire Strikes Back, who found Han Solo and Luke Skywalker on Hoth after the snow speeders were dispatched by the Rebel Alliance?
And this always confused me because they confused the call signs of all these people before, but I always thought it was Hobby Killivan, but it's not. It's Zev Seneca.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I also would have accepted Rogue 2.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What was the other name for the forest moon of Endor?
The forest moon of Outdoor. Hold on. I know it's the Century Moon.
Sanctuary Moon.
Sanctuary
Very
Moon.
close.
Okay.
All right. I got 2 Force Awakens questions for you.
All right.
How many planets are featured in The Force Awakens?
All right. There's a... then... Let's see where they go now. I suppose... There's that one. And there's that one. 6.
6. And which are they?
Jakku. Let's see. What was the next one? The Takodana.
Ding.
The unnamed Imperial or the unnamed First Order one that everybody thinks is Elam.
Starkiller Base.
Starkiller Base. Then there's Hosnium Prime.
Ding.
Which got hosed. Then the first Resistance base. There's Achu, of course.
Aktu.
Yeah,
Ding.
Aktu. Achtung! And what was the last one? Okay, the Rebel base or the Resistance base was on Aggravated Beaver Revenge?
Dakar.
Okay. That's right.
All right.
It's like the plane.
And the last question. What was the name of the Star Destroyer that Hux and Kylo were stationed on?
The Star Destroyer. I don't know this one.
That would be the Finalizer.
Ah, the Finalizer. Yeah, I was about to say that.
Right. Okay.
But that would have been my final answer.
Well, that was fun. Thank you for indulging us. I just had those left over, and I kind of seemed like a shame to let those go to waste. So anyway, well, now we'll move into the comic discussion, and this will be a spoiler discussion. So hit our sounder there, Taxus. And we're going to start with Darth Maul. This series just started this past week, and it features the apprentice to Darth Sidious in the days leading up to, or at least the time leading up to, the Phantom Menace. Darth Maul starts the issue hunting rathtars before basically concluding that this is no longer satisfying.
Yeah.
And so he starts stalking Jedi on Coruscant. Of course, he doesn't make a move because he knows that Sidious won't allow him to. So what'd you think, Taxus? You liking the series so far?
Gosh, I really love the first issue. I think it's awesome. I just like how he realizes what he is. He's a weapon. And furthermore, he just feels like he's a weapon designed for a specific purpose. And what good is a weapon if it's not put to use?
Right.
And he's kind of testing the boundaries, and of course, Sidious chides him about it. But yeah, I felt I didn't feel like anything was forced in this. I thought it was great. I loved the hunting party in the very beginning. The whole
those were some that hunting sequence was extremely well illustrated. It reminded me a bit of Alien and Aliens, because they're going through of course that those didn't take place in a forest or anything like that, but you had this braggart lead hunter going through this swamp, and all of a sudden he's talking about how he's going to be laying down fire, and clearly this is the guide for a big spender, some sort of a trophy hunter, and all of a sudden the slime from the Rathtar starts falling down on his face, and then the one panel where he this guy, he's just in shock, he's stunned, he's standing there, and that Rathtar gets up on its tentacles and is leaning over him just like he's about to come down on him. That was just a very, very well illustrated sequence that they had there.
Left his boots in place, chewed off at the ankles and stuff. And I loved how it kind of rolled over other people. That's the way it killed them. Just kind of by crushing them to death, not necessarily by eating them.
Yeah, and then Maul shows up to take on these Rathtars, and he's not using a lightsaber. He's using sort of a halberd type weapon.
Yeah,
which was an interesting choice. I guess it's prudent because if he's seen with that weapon, who cares? It's not a lightsaber, and no one's going to connect him with the Jedi or the Sith or anything like that.
That's a good point.
But I mean, not sure it was really necessary because he was going to kill anybody that was around anyway.
Yeah, that's a really cool fight sequence too, and he's not surprised, but you see him battling one Rathtar, and as if that was bad, then the other one shows up, and he ends up having a little bit of struggle at first on that second one, just for a second, but then he takes care of it.
Yeah, he's got this inner monologue going the entire time that I think is, he said so little in the movie, in the Phantom Menace. He basically told Sidious, at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi, at last we'll have our revenge. And I'm pretty sure that's the sum total of his dialogue there. And he didn't get a chance to say much else, but he's had an opportunity to deliver more lines in Clone Wars and in Rebels. And this is before he's a broken man. He's the pit bull, is what a lot of people have been describing him as. Point him at a target, send him after it, and he's just eager to prove himself and challenge himself. But he's got a lot of this. His inner monologue, his way of speaking, sounds very much like how I've come to expect him to sound. Talking about fear and as you're making the point you're making earlier. He's a weapon, but he's not being used correctly, so he risks becoming dull, losing his edge.
I like how he says he envies the rathtars' freedom, like he's much like them, but except for that, and right. Yeah, I also like how when he is thinking, they actually use that black backing with the red border.
Right.
I thought I really liked that a lot. It really kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, his monologue reminds me of, going back all those years to when right before this movie came out, and they had all those character spots in commercials. Yeah, and Maul's was fear attracts the fearful, the cow, all that type. It reminded me very much of that. It was so well done. I like that. Mm-hmm. So he returns to Coruscant. He's stalking this Jedi and the Jedi's Padawan, and and I think the main purpose of that scene was he really wants to test himself against the Jedi, and why not? Those are the people that are most similarly trained to himself, and you want to see how good you are. You want something like that. And B, it was to kind of show this antagonism that he has with Sidious. He's chafing under Sidious's tutelage. Yeah, and he Maul doesn't want to wait anymore. He wants to get on with it. He wants to be fighting Jedi. He wants to get the Sith agenda out there and get going. But Sidious reminds him, you may be ready, but I'm not. My plans are not ready to go. It is not time to reveal ourselves yet. Yeah. And so we knew that. And Sidious gives him a chance to kind of redeem himself for nearly exposing himself on Coruscant by sending him out to Kellex, I think is how you name that system, because the Trade Federation, who are already Sidious's allies, have run into some troubles with pirates who have used some sort of an EMP device to deactivate the droid fleet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they it's kind of I enjoyed that was connected to that. That wasn't just some random thing. The pirates seem to really be causing trouble. Right. This thing.
I don't know if you noticed, and I brought this up in the review I wrote for this issue, but there is some really nice symmetry between the scenes on the Trade Federation battleship and the beginning of the Phantom Menace. Yeah. And that symmetry is this. The Neimoidians are on the bridge in both instances. In the Phantom Menace, the Jedi have come to negotiate. They're not supposed to be there. The Neimoidians are panicked a little bit. And they contact Sidious, who tells the Neimoidians to kill them, and they send the battle droids after them. Mm-hmm. In this situation, the Neimoidians are once again on the bridge of their battleship. They are a little shaken because they're being held by hostages, and now a Sith, a different type of Force user, comes on board. Yeah. Where the symmetry really kicks in is that Maul battles his way to the bridge, much like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan did, and then he has to force his way into the bridge by taking down the door. And in one instance, this is where it diverges. The Neimoidians weren't so happy to see the Jedi, but they were happy to see the Sith Lord show up. And I don't know, it was very subtle, but I thought that was really well done.
No, that's a good point. I completely glossed over that. I really like, he even in his attack, he's reflecting some of these blaster bolts into the Neimoidians that are standing there. They're just kind of happenstance to the whole thing. It's just complete chaos on there. But he takes them all out in really short order, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. So yeah, he defeats the pirates there, and he rescues the Nymodians and the Trade Federation. And there's one pirate left who mistakes Maul for a Jedi simply because he's carrying a lightsaber, and which says a lot about the galaxy, that not everyone realizes that a red lightsaber is not something the Jedi use. So he begins to try and bargain for his life. He's got information, and he'll give the information to Maul if Maul spares him. To which Maul responds, "I'll be the judge of that. If your information's useful, then perhaps I'll let you go." So he spills that there's this. I don't have the issue in front of me, but there was I guess some sort of a
Padawan that was taken captive.
Right, but there was a crime lord of some sort, or a crime lady, and she's captured this Padawan and gonna auction the Padawan off. And to which Maul responds, "Well, it's a pity that no one survived before I got here. Everyone on board was dead when I arrived." So he slaughters both the pirates and then the Nymodians who were getting ready to contact Sidious.
Her name, by the way, her name is Zev Zrexus.
Right.
The boss mistress of the Zrexus cartel.
Right. So now he's got. So that's basically set up this miniseries that he's going to head off to. He's got an interest in this Padawan. Now, I think I've seen some solicits for the series going forward, and I think the idea is that possibly he is going to rescue this rescue in quotes this Padawan, and then try and convert the Padawan over to the dark side as his own type of apprentice. But on the first read, I didn't quite remember that, and I was wondering if perhaps the thought was he's going to go try and recover this Padawan so he can fight him. So he could, which I don't know, maybe that's his original intent, and then he decides to try and make him an apprentice. But that's because that's what the whole issue was about, that he didn't have anything adequate to test his abilities.
And the Padawan must be more powerful than a Rathtar or something.
Well, the Padawan is a sentient being. It's it's someone who's trained to fight. It's someone who's going to fight him with a lightsaber as opposed to a brute of a creature. Yeah. And so that was just a thought. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know that type of plot device is going to be used in these issues going forward or not. I did see that somewhere in this series, Maul is going to be teaming up with Cad Bane and Aura Singh. They teased that cover for like issue 3, I think it is going forward. So
he makes effective use of the scimitar too. Thought that was kind of neat.
Yes, he did, and that's fantastic because he basically showed up on Tatooine with that ship, and that was it. He pulled his bike out of the pack. And then it was seen next in Lando for our official canon sources, but that ship's not really had an opportunity to do anything. So, and I guess it's also interesting that these ships that various people aligned with the Empire have, they find ways of being used elsewhere. And I'm thinking of, the scimitar,
the carrying spike.
Yeah, and that was the next one, is the carrying spike. That survives all the way up to the time of the First Order.
Yeah.
And we've seen that one in Poe Dameron. So
they both have cloaking devices, don't they?
Yes, they do. So interesting. That's something we're going to have to keep an eye on going forward. All right.
So despite what Captain Nita says, there are ships that small that have a cloaking device.
Yeah, he was just simply uninformed.
Indeed.
Well, all right. I think we've covered that issue. There's not really a whole lot more to say.
Yeah, I liked the dialogue. I liked the art. I mean, it's great. Nothing looked weird to me. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can get a little weird face every now and then. But all the pirates, I like the integration of some of the newer alien species that we see in The Force Awakens there. They're really doing a good job of trying to retro world build with a lot of this, Right.
I guess my only concern going forward is, and there's nothing to be done about this, simply because you don't know what's going to be in the future movies. So, I have no idea what, if any, new alien species we're going to see in The Last Jedi. We saw some new races in Rogue One. But, as much as I like seeing those new races and aliens and species show up in the new movies and things like that, I wish they would work harder in using the established ones.
Yeah.
So that in these secondary, and that's a poor choice, but secondary sources, the comics and the books and stuff like that, when they can continue to use those, we recognize them. I mean, when there's a Rhodian in a comic, you instantly know a bit something about that.
Yeah.
Or if you see a Rhodian mentioned in a book, you know what that looks like. So yeah, I'm glad that they're bringing those things back in, but I just kind of would like to see going forward that they don't expand the universe of alien species quite so much with each new movie that comes out.
They need to start integrating some of the one-offs we had from the Clone Wars.
Right. All right. Well, I think that does it for Maul. Let's move on over to Dr. Aphra.
There's the cute little comic at the back, just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, the less said about that, the better.
It's robot love. I mean, robot love is really important. Since you insist
on covering it, here's my issue with it. Why is this comic here? Why is this thing? It is cute, no denying that, but it completely is a mismatch with the tone of the book that it's attached to. Darth Maul is a darker story. It's about, this creature of the dark side, and then we get a little story about a couple robots flirting that ultimately has no consequences for anything else in the Star Wars galaxy attached to the end of it.
Love wins, Dennis.
Okay, and what does that got to do with anything?
Just did one.
All right, so moving on to Aphra.
Okay.
All right, so last time we saw Dr. Aphra, she was busy being flushed out the airlock of the Executor, only to be rescued by Black Chrysanthemum and 000 BT-1. And, that was all part of her plan. She had a feeling she was about to meet an ill fate, so she had that set up so that she did get flushed out, they'd rescue her. And so now she's in the area of the Cosmotanic Steps, which also came from the Darth Vader series. And there's a great twist on the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark introduction. I love that. This other archaeologist emerges from a cave, having escaped from some sort of archaic droid with an idol of sorts, and he gets out there only to get shot in the back by Aphra, who. She's kind of playing the role of Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Whatever it is that this guy possessed, she can take. And of course, she didn't have the what are those indigenous people called in Raiders of the Lost Ark? The
Moy. Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Except he kind of had it coming, though.
Yeah, exactly. He had already tried to kill her and leave her for dead, and it didn't take. So she got her revenge. But again, this series is doing well with that. They're borrowing quite a bit from Indiana Jones, and I'm fine with that. It's that's kind of the standard bearer for archaeological adventure type movies and entertainment. So that'll come up again. So yeah, this series then moves on from there. She's in debt. She owes Black Chrysanthemum money. She owes a little cartel some money. She's just had to buy a new ship, the Archangel 2, which we see very early on in issue 1.
And by the way, that's what I like. I really like that little aspect where Black Chrysanthemum is just staying with her to make sure he gets paid, not to have any sense of loyalty.
Right. And the droids are along mainly because 000 sees as an opportunity to torture humans.
Yeah.
And that's part of his programming. He's got some restrictions there, but we'll get to that in just a second. We'll get to it now. So this cartel shows up as she gets back to the Archangel 2, and they want money. They want a payment, and it was the two critters from Rogue One that this guy had as backup. Moroff was I can't remember the Gigo something or others were the alien species. A lot of new alien. This is what I was talking about. There's a lot of new alien names to learn.
Kind of wrap your head around.
Right. So Black Chrysanthemum beats them up, and so she manages to get out of her first payment. It was kind of a double or nothing on the first payment there. That was their bet. And then 000 follows this gangster into the local cantina and then poisons him in the bathroom.
A Syrian too, right?
Was he?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he had the big double brain head.
Oh, I thought that was just a hat that he had over, a big hat that he had over his head. But it could have been.
Yeah, I'll go back and look. I think something happens where his hat falls off. I just seem to remember thinking that that was actually filled with something.
Oh, well, that would be a nice inclusion if it was.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much because he dies there in the bathroom of an apparent heart attack, or at least that's the way 000 made it. But then Aphra's problems are just beginning because she goes to sell that artifact and she finds out that her academic credentials have been suspended on suspicion that she cheated to get her doctorate. And dear old dad is the culprit.
Oh, yeah. And wasn't it... Okay, so in the next issue, don't we get a little backstory on that?
Yeah, we do.
We'll see what happens?
There's an add-on story to the end of the first issue that goes back to her academy days where... so she's got the professor that she's basically studying under.
Swindling, yeah, at some point.
Right, and he hates her. Absolutely cannot stand her. And then goes so far to basically say, you're never going to be a doctor. I'm going to make it my mission. And then, so what were those grubs that he basically had?
I think there was something that were like brain zombies, like you didn't want them infecting organics or they would spread really easily. I think that's the gist I got from it.
Right. Yeah, they were known to cause disasters.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's going to be his claim to fame. And, she points out that, hey, these things are illegal. Quarantined. They need to be destroyed. And he's found them there, the Cosmotanic Steps, and is getting ready to make that, a big paper or whatever. Well, she then essentially steals them and then exposes them to the radiation that she needs to make them inert or whatever, and so she's granted her doctorate as of that. The problem is that she's got a friend.
Yes, okay, this is what I was going for. Yeah.
Right. She's got a friend who's also studying there at the university, and, she's buying into Aphra's story that she found these and that they were something about the Cosmotanic Steps preserved them, and she's going to basically make that her life's work. And Aphra just says, good luck with that. And lets her at it. So I have a feeling this gal's going to show up again.
Yes.
Sometime.
I have a feeling that's how the dad found out.
Oh, I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, it's from her. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe she's not the one that would tip him off because she's probably a little upset. Might want revenge or something like that. In her own way, or blackmail, or whatever it is. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking at the end, the way they kind of intentionally left that hanging. She's like, wow, I'm going to go spend my entire life here doing this, forsaking everything else. And Aphra at that point has the power to tell her not to, or to let her basically waste her life. Right. Yeah, and for the record, this friend's name was Susina. Okay.
And, there was another nice tie-in to the Lando series in this end here. This professor, his name is Sava Tubnix. And, he's bragging about how he managed to dispose of an Ugnaught professor that was teaching there at the university. That's Sava Pors from the Lando series, and she mentioned how she had been teaching at this university before she kind of got disgraced and was forced to leave. So there's another tie-in.
This guy was not a good dude.
No, he really wasn't. I was not particularly sorry to see him go, and and there was the Amberson symbiotes that Aphra stole from him. So,
and that's the thing I like about Aphra, is because even though she's not necessarily noble herself, everybody that she deals with, I feel is worse than she is.
Well, maybe not Susina.
Well, that might not be the last time we've seen her anyway.
Yeah, and then she kind of had a droid that looked like K2SO with her, that kind of hung out with her at that time. But, I don't really know what that's about. But, I think that's just part of Aphra. She's always going to have some sort of droids around. So, maybe there's no story there. I would not be surprised if we get more as part of the Dr. Aphra series, we get these periodic flashbacks that fill in some of these stories.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But so moving forward, we get the next two issues kind of, this is all part of the same story arc. So things are going to blend together here. But so Aphra's father, who's not named anywhere yet in these first three issues, he's basically blackmailing Aphra into helping him, because there is this issue with this cult of Jedi, and her father's been studying the Ordo Aspectu, and the whole thing behind the Ordo Aspectu is is this notion that this band of Jedi are researching immortality. And so he believes that this sect was close to finding the secret. The rest of the Jedi were jealous, and so they invaded the headquarters and caused a giant explosion. But Aphra's father believes that some remnant of the Ordo Aspectu remains, and that if he discovers it, it could be a boon for the galaxy. And so he claims of doing this for altruistic motives. I'm suspicious of that. Aphra counters with, that's one version. There's another version that I've heard, which is that, basically the Ordo Aspectu were Sith-like, a Sith-like cult. Right. And they were prolonging their lives by sucking the life force out of Jedi Padawans. And so, the Jedi invaded this base, and then, things didn't go well, and it exploded, and that was the end of the Ordo Aspectu. You want to tell us what the third version of the story was?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it that somehow BT was the weapon or something that they were working on? Yeah.
I think that was a flight of fancy on BT1's part. But each one of the versions of the story started with this, asteroid base being attacked by starfighters, and in his version, all you get is this gigantic version of BT-1 sitting there, firing on ships. And then, of course, there was a fourth version of the story where it might just have been a grammatical argument amongst Jedi scholars. What's the Ordo Aspectu that Aphra makes reference to? So, anyways, she's Aphra. You were making mention how she's not particularly noble, but the people around her are even less so. Well, she kind of has a noble streak that emerges a little bit over the course of this story. She's so fed up with her father that she's pulled a gun on him at least twice in issue 2, and he makes mention that you couldn't shoot your own father, and she's right. And then she looks at 000 and says, "Droid, you're up." And so 000 is about to torture him, and then Aphra calls him off. So it's, I don't know that I would call it noble so much as just you can't harm family. It's it was, she's mad. We had learned back in the Darth Vader series that while he was off doing his archaeological study, he had left Aphra and her mother behind, and then her mother was killed by bandits during the war with the Separatists. And then we get a little bit of that story at the beginning of the second issue, where she's having a flashback where she's basically a young teenager, and she finds her father and just lets him have it, because it's, "I've got issues, Dad." Is basically what she tells him after everything that and he's just so
engrossed in his work. He's just completely consumed by it. Sort of like Indiana Jones's dad.
Yes, yeah, and that's another one of those Indiana Jones references. So, anyway, so she gives in, and she just says that she's going to help him out, and of course, he's going to have to make good on getting her restored, which I really don't know how he's going to be able to do that. I have a feeling that's going to be an issue here towards the end of the story arc. But so he takes them off to where he believes the Ordo Aspectu happen to be. And I will let you do the honors in revealing where that is.
Yeah, that's going to be Yavin 4.
Right.
Where the freshly liberated rebel base is being occupied by the Imperials.
Your Sith bias is coming out there. Right. So, they're going to have to invade the Masasi temple that the rebels were using in order to find out what's going on with the Ordo Aspectu. And again, it's another Indiana Jones reference. It's essentially the, the room where they had
that German base.
Right, where they had, they excavated that the
Well of Souls.
The Well of Souls, and you had to use the Staff of Ra. Well, Aphra's father has got those collection of statues, and they got to put them into those little indents in that basically a map room. And at first they do that, and then nothing happens until the wall opens up on the temple, and there is another temple in the distance that's got the sun shining, being big gigantic, the sun's behind it, illuminating this one area, and that's basically the tease. This is where you need to go to find about the Ordo Aspectu. So that's kind of what's going on with Aphra. I mean, I guess the other thing that's great about issue 3 is when Black Chrysanthemum's taken out the Imperials that are he draws them away from that temple so that Aphra and her father can get in there, and he single-handedly takes down this small army. He takes down an ATST. He's
some giant creature takes that down.
Right. But then he uses the cannon.
That was cool.
Of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, it's missing the cannon.
Yeah. So he's really showing how fierce he is. No, it's not the first time we've seen that. He fought Obi-Wan in issue of Star Wars not long ago, and held his own there. And he's fought Chewbacca and more than held his own against Chewbacca. So he is quite the enforcer for Aphra.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really like the way I really like where this is going. I really like, if I could point out, that she gets mad at her dad for not realizing that an entire planet, and in fact Jeddah, the holy city, was destroyed and everybody there killed.
Yes.
And then Alderaan, and he's like, "Oh, really?" And she just almost seems sickened by.
Right. She's like, an entire city was wiped out and you didn't notice. Yeah. And that was another excellent series of panels. She had that initial look of disgust, and and they framed it was just that sentence was broken up over the course of 4 panels, right, with that really serious look of disgust in the last one about how the city, and this raises an interesting point about Aphra's personality. She hung out with Vader after he kind of tracked her down back in Darth Vader, was it 3 or 4? Yeah. And she agreed to kind of hang out with him because I think, as she put it, it was kind of, being a footnote in the pages of history was better than being completely forgotten. Right. But, she does not have any love for the Empire. She is not, at the end of the day, she's not really a fan. She's disgusted by what they did on Jeddah. She's not happy about the way that they blew up Alderaan. I guess she just, that was just, what other choices did she have at the time, I suppose? But she seems to be experiencing, not only is she having family issues, but she's having kind of a crisis of conscience. Right. I think with her involvement with Vader and the Empire. Yeah,
and she was almost compelled to maintain her association with Vader because Vader would have killed her. Right. And I think that was the deal. Like, whenever you're going to kill me, you just kill me, But if you find me useful, then use me.
Yeah, and I guess what was the inspector's name from Darth Vader? His name is there was that Sherlock Holmes type. Yeah. Who he kind of figured out what was going on with Darth Vader and Luke and all that stuff, and he told Darth Vader at the time that the Empire needs someone like you, not this decrepit emperor leading it. So I'm giving you this information, and I realize that knowing that I know this makes me too dangerous to let live. So I could run, but I'd always be living my life looking over my shoulder. So, Godspeed Anakin Skywalker. He knew that much. And so, Vader killed him right then. And that was an interesting foreshadow. Aphra knew that Vader was never going to let her live with as much as she knew. He had to believe she was dead. Right. I'm not convinced that Vader doesn't know that she's still alive, but at any rate, so that was her plan. Was that she tried to bargain with the Emperor a little bit by turning in some information about Vader, which didn't work. It only made the Emperor more proud of Vader and Darth Vader number 25. Yeah. And so but then she had the backup plan, which was getting flushed out of the airlock. Hell of a plan. But so now she's doing her thing, and her dad's not up on current events, which those are some major current events not to be oblivious about. But I'm with you. I like where the series is going. I was a little nervous after the first issue. The tone shift from Darth Vader kind of concerned me a little bit, and it seemed just a bit zanier with that first one. But they're telling a really good adventure story now, and this is what the Star Wars comics needed, which was a a new character that was created in the pages of the comics that they could tell stories of, where we didn't have the backdrop of knowing that those characters survived from A New Hope to The Empire Strikes Back and later films. And so, Aphra's got an unknown future ahead of her, which is what they needed. They needed to take some dares like that. The books need to start doing more of that as well. They need to start focusing on some of the characters. So, I hope Aphra continues to do well. I'd love to see a series with Vaughn. I'd love to see, series, just bring us some new characters. There's lots of stories to tell in the Star Wars galaxy.
Well, something else that's great about this series is that not only do we have the independent character, but the things that she's dealing with are ancient history. So you're able to fill just that rich tapestry of a backdrop and world build with it. And and always drop something out there that can be explored later. I'm really intrigued by the Order Uspictu.
Yeah. I suspect there's going to be a twist to these guys coming. Yeah. So I'm anxious to see what that is. But, all right. Well, normally we grade the Rebels episodes when we do, Scoundrel special editions. Do you want to grade these comics?
I'm going to give them both A's. And,
Aphra is a clear A for me. Darth Maul is an A- with the potential, for this issue to get bumped up with what comes after it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping just for a bit more of a nuanced story going forward.
Hey, did you get any alternate covers or anything?
Not for these. I did when I picked up my copy of Aphra 1 at a comic shop. I did get an alternate cover for Darth Vader number 25, which was the Aphra action figure.
Oh, cool.
On the card, which is cool.
Yeah.
How about you?
I couldn't help myself. I found there's two Darth Mauls. One was where he's in an action pose and he's got the Sith symbol behind him. And another one where it's the Clone Wars styling. Maul.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it's really cool. I couldn't help myself. I was like, snatch and snatch.
Do you just bag those, or do you frame them, or what do you do with those?
I bagged them. I got one of the regular, the standard issue one to read, but the other two, I've got them stored away.
Yeah, I'm gonna frame the additional copy of Aphra 1 that I have.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that was a nice cover. I love that. It's currently my Twitter background as well.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. I like that art. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to do it. So, thanks for listening to this Scoundrel Special Edition. If you want to reach us on social media, we are SQ Pod on Twitter. Darth Taxus is at Darth Taxus, and I am at DJKVR2. We are also on Facebook at facebook.com/SQ Pod. We love getting your emails, so please send those to us at sqpod@rathtars.com. Let us know what you have. Any thoughts you have about Rebels, Star Wars comics, or any other Star Wars theories, thoughts, or questions. If you would like to support the show, the best way you can do that is to leave us a review on iTunes. Make sure you check out the other shows on the Retro Zap Podcast Network. There's an awful lot of Star Wars there. Some new stuff's coming up. As well, if you like things like the Animaniacast or for the Animaniacs, or if you're movies in general, the Deuce Cast, a lot of retro type stuff, then I'd recommend Techno Retro Dads. And then, of course, there's Skywalking Through Neverland with their Disney and Star Wars coverage as well. So, any final thoughts for us this week, Texas?
No, I just feel that love is in the air, and I can't wait for our next episode with the Scoundrels as our Valentines.
Oh, yes, it'll be a lovely time.
Sure. All right.
Well, that'll do it then for this Scoundrel Special Edition. Thanks for listening, everyone, and may the Force be with you.